We've got two people on the panel today. To my left is Jonathan Henley. Some of you might know him from yesterday's presentation. Jonathan's a seasoned business-to-business marketing veteran of over 3 decades with experience in multiple business sectors. He's worked internationally as a marketing consultant and as a business owner. His passion is using strategic yet creative thinking to deliver business objectives. And if I'm not mistaken, he's going to be doing another presentation soon, so he's going to be on record for doing 2 presentations in 2 days. That's kind of cool. So please give Jonathan a big hand. And on my right, we have Khalid Zenki. You've heard from him a while ago in the first presentation of the day. Khalid's a marketing expert. And I don't mean, like lots of people call themselves experts, but Khalid is truly an expert with over a decade and a half of experience in launching brands from the ground up. He's got experience working with small companies. He's got experience working with the big ones. He's the man behind Launch, which was one of the first product launch agencies in the Middle East, if I'm not correct. And he's also founder and host of Launch on Fire, which is a popular podcast focused on promoting entrepreneurs and the startup economy. Okay, and apart from that, he's also launched this really cool book called Launch. Khalid's worked with industry leaders like Anthony Robbins, Tom McCarthy, Brian Tracy, and one of my personal favorites, one of my favorite hustlers of all time, Gary Vaynerchuk. And apart from that, he's a friend of mine. We've known each other for years. We've collaborated on a couple of projects. And for those of you in certain circles, just FYI, Khalid's in certain circles known as the Steve Jobs of Kuwait. Right? So that's why if you want to know anything about Apple and inside information, talk to Khalid.
Whenever there is a launch of Apple, they call me. They say,
Absolutely.
okay, what's coming up with Apple? I said, I don't know. When are they launching? I guess the second week or third week of September. It happened a couple of times. No, you know someone in Apple. I said, I swear to God, I don't know anyone in Apple. Just, I know their launch calendar. That's it. Based on the history and the experiences.
Great. So a big round of applause for Khalid. All right, so let's get straight into it. Now, one of the key drivers of the modern economy, the digital economy or the global economy or whatever you want to call it, has been the word disruption. Disruption has been thrown around a lot especially over the last decade or so. And it's the disruption has been caused by innovative game changers, people that have come in and have changed the industry. They've changed the way we work. They've changed the way we live. They've changed the process of buying products and services. These people have essentially figured out a gap in the industry and filled that gap in an innovative way. Now, a few industry experts believe that a lot of these so-called innovations should have been created by industry leaders, not newcomers to the industry. Right? So what am I talking about here? The idea for Airbnb, for instance, should have been thought of by a hotel chain, but it wasn't. The idea for Amazon should have been thought of by a retail giant, like maybe Walmart, but Amazon was totally different. It was created by Jeff Bezos. The idea for Uber should have been developed by a taxi company or a car company, but it was developed by somebody else, a bunch of other people who found a gap and decided to fill it with some innovative product or service. So that is disruption. And in the next 15-20 minutes, we're going to talk about how disruption is affecting the economy of today. What is the view of Jonathan and Khalid on disruption, and where we see the economy going forward from here. So we've seen, guys, the economies have changed from a supply-driven economy to a demand-driven economy, where apps, the app business, apps, and all these new form of companies like Facebook and Twitter and Uber, so on and so forth, have actually changed the way they've changed business models. What is your personal opinion of how disruption has changed the way we do business? Jonathan, you want to go first?
Right, thank you. Yes, quite clearly, the disruptive business models that have emerged over the last 5 years or so have changed, as you quite rightly say, changed the way we live, changed the way we work, changed the way we travel. What I think that one of the most notable aspects, and I suppose from a business to business point of view or a product launch point of view in particular, is these disruptive models have shortened the time to market for a product development. In traditional, years gone by, the time it would take to market research, develop, design, launch, and distribute a product was, really quite lengthy. What we have now is it's a function of this disruptive technology and the can-do attitude of entrepreneurs. People believe that they can do things now, and they are assisted by the technology, by the disruptive notion. And the time to market on new products now is probably a tenth of how it used to be. That's one particular characteristic I recognise. I also think that and this picks up, I think, from your speech earlier on, and we've touched on this yesterday and yourself, is nowadays it's far more, it's not business to consumer, it's consumer to consumer. So this disruptive technology allows people to actually help other people, share information with other people. And finally, one particular aspect of the disruptive market, which I like, which is fintech, is the ability now, for example, in Africa, for micro-loan companies. And I think that is a really, really positive benefit for mankind. It's not a business proposition, but it allows people to micro-loan money from family to family across
Absolutely,
continents.
yeah. I think a few years ago there was this website called Kiva. I don't know if it still exists, but you could actually give micro-loans to businesses, mainly in Africa, but they were all over the world. And these were small, very, very tiny amounts of maybe $100, $200, enough to help a guy set up like a shopping cart outside a supermarket in Africa. But these are things that actually help people with their livelihoods.
It's a brilliant example of disruptive technology benefiting and improving people's lives, which I think is important.
Khalid?
I would compliment what Jonathan said, but I will take it from another perspective. I guess most of the well-known brands, like the taxi companies, the hotels, they're really really in their comfort zone. And they're happy with the success that they have. So they are not messing with their own success. If it's working, if it's not broken,
why not fix it?
Just keep it. It's working. They never thought one day they would be disrupted. They never thought one day that the market will shift, the generation will change the way they do things. So one of the terminologies that I loved always reference to is you have to, I quote this from Tom McCarthy, he says always, you have to mess with your success. If your product is doing great, your service is doing great, your business is doing great, try to find new ways, try to mess with your success, do things out of the comfort zone and try to introduce new things, try to find out new ways of doing things. Don't just be comfortable in your comfort zone and try to keep saying, what, it's successful. No, you have to mess with your success in order to stay in the market. Guess what? If you don't mess with your success, someone else's will. All right? So that's exactly happened with BlackBerry, if you remember the old days. They were happy with the success. We are the #1 company selling phones and everybody's using BlackBerry. Where is the BlackBerry today? Because they didn't adopt change.
Nokia.
Nokia is a perfect example.
Nokia, the same thing, yeah. So that's exactly why large corporations, large businesses really never thought of messing with success. A lot of big companies, big corporations, they always, big ones like Apple and other businesses like Google, they have teams. Said, all right, what can we do differently? How can we improve our devices, our technology? Because
they're constantly
if they don't,
challenging themselves.
Exactly, challenging themselves. Because if they don't challenge themselves, they challenge their teams. Guess what? Someone else's would jump and would take a stake, and then they will be out of the market, or someone else's would take a massive share of their market share. So that's the reason why a lot of businesses or entrepreneurs coming into the pictures, thinking of things a little bit differently. And we know in entrepreneurship, they have the ability to really change the course and change the approach to make it work. So that's the reason why, big businesses that are really comfortable and you don't see them like the taxi company doing Uber.
Yeah, true. Taking a page out of what Jonathan said about the go-to-market strategy, the time to prepare, especially for a product launch, coming from the launch perspective, what is your take on that? Because in the old days, like Jonathan said, you would have a lot of time to prepare for a launch. Now people have to think on their feet. What do you recommend for people?
I think the speed in the marketplace and the upbeat of the marketplace pushed everyone on their toes to be always innovative. They have short time to really prepare themselves and get into the market and think of what's the next product. And the reason why, because the market is becoming very competitive. Everyone kind of in a rush, and they want to make sure that they be the first and the best, not only the first in the marketplace. So that's number one reason why a lot of big companies, they always think of their launch. And I always say, if you don't make it in the first launch, that's okay. But if you are going into mega launch, it's a make or break it business model. So a lot of businesses nowadays, they think of, okay, I'm launching. And if you don't have a proof of concept, that's a problem. You know, why Talabat today being acquired by Rocket Internet? Because they have a massive market share, and they've been doing launches, and they have market penetration as well. Why Talabat, why Rocket Internet? Recently they purchased Rocket Internet. They purchased Carriage. You know, because Carriage kind of really taking a small tiny market share of Talabat in the market. He said, you know what?
Let's just buy them.
Let's put it into portfolio. So we don't have a competition in the market, kind of really dominating the market. So this is the approach of how businesses, large corporations think. They didn't say, oh, this is a small company. They've been in the market for 2 years. I don't have to worry about them. If you recall in the old days,
I was going to say, Microsoft, was it Microsoft in the 90s and early 2000s started acquiring smaller companies because they felt they were going to be threats?
Exactly. Most of Microsoft products today is being acquired by Microsoft. So many different softwares that they have. But if you recall the old days, there was a brand called Compaq.
Yes.
Where is Compaq? Acquired by HP.
My first laptop was a Compaq.
Yeah. So HP right now is the major two players in the personal computers is HP and Dell. Where is Compaq? It's not there anymore because it has been acquired by HP. Because HP, they don't want to compete with two different businesses. They want to compete only with one. So they acquired Compaq and they went to the market. So sometimes you have to think strategically, not just a product launch as a product launch. Where are you going with the market? And then you can put the promise and the product and the super experience and super model into the perspective. And where you can really focus and put energy into the launch and then go to the market with a proper rollout launch, well thought of with all its dimensions. And usually when people, they go in the product launch, they don't think of so many different moving elements in the product launch. If you are going with a mega launch, there are so many different moving elements. I always advise people, especially medium to large corporations, if you are actually rolling out a bigger product launch, you have to make sure you have a full team dedicated for the launch. Their job, they wake up in the morning thinking of the launch, they sleep at night thinking of a launch. Till the launch is actually
I think that's one of the mistakes people make. They don't designate people to handle specific parts of the launch.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to assemble a team from different departments, not only from marketing if you do a product launch. You need someone from customer service, you need someone from finance, you need someone from admin, you need someone from operation. This team worked with IT, especially with social media and e-commerce. So this team is involved from all perspective of product launch, not just, marketing. The job of product launch is marketing department only.
It should be technically from cradle to the grave. Basically.
Exactly. And someone from maybe C-suite as well to really supervise the whole thing.
To get the higher level perspective on things.
So this is a must as a rollout perspective. And big companies right now, they are aware that they need a product launch team to be there and launch control room to manage.
I like that.
So you need to know what's happening, what's going on, and get some data and information of what's the customer behavior or reaction to the market and how the market is reacting, and engage with the customers, find the new ways to market and promote and encourage people to really be part of your launch, not just you company as doing the launch. And build a community about the brand as well, around the brand.
Absolutely, yeah. I think a lot of the speakers yesterday, including myself and even Anwar, talked about building that community for engagement. It's very important to constantly be in touch with their customers to figure out what they want, to get into their minds. And we also talked about empathy and about trying to feel what the customer is feeling to get a perspective. Moving on to the next question. So over the last, a couple of centuries, the last century, in fact, the 20th century, the pace of innovation and disruption was a lot slower than what it is today. So you look back at, let's say, when radio, the shift from radio, from newspapers to radio, it took a long time. And then the shift from from radio to TV took a long time. The switch from TV to internet took a long time. However, in the last 10, 15 years, the switch from the internet to everything else has been very radical, super fast. Because with that, we've seen an entire ecosystem that has been built that revolves around apps, that it revolves around ERP systems, and the like. How can brands sort of use these disruptive technologies to retain customers, to make sure that they don't skip to the next best thing?
I think that's a question that touches on so much of what we've been talking about in the last couple of days, and most recently just now, the whole brand experience story. The way that brands do create loyalty still. I believe that whilst we might be in a disruptive environment, people still will follow brands that they know well, they trust, and that deliver on their brand promise. Having said that, it's also very important that all the customer touch points, the journeys that they make to find that product, so whether it's via an app on the phone, whether it's on their website, whether it's even just the quality and the thinking behind their advertising strategy, each of those aspects has to focus on customer experience and journey, and making sure that what is remembered is what is the greatest thing about the brand, rather than effectively, it's like an event. If I'm running an event, people tend to remember the one bad thing that happens.
Right.
They will remember that one bad thing over and above all the great stuff that happens. So that's why it's so important that we must never lose sight of where our customers are, what their perception is, and how they are going to share that experience through either social media or just simple word of mouth.
Okay, interesting. I mean, also I wanted to add, all these experiences need to be centered around the customer, because platforms will always change. Like people that were on Friendster and MySpace and High5 they're the same people. They've just moved to Facebook and Instagram. So the platforms have changed, but the people haven't. So it's important to keep, in all these transitions, to keep the people, keep the customers in the center. Khalid, your take?
I believe the competition became really hot, and everybody looking for the next big thing. And that's the reason why everybody's moving fast, and everybody's moving into the digital era right now. And everyone is thinking, how can we utilize the platforms that it's available today? And everybody's thinking, okay, what is the next big thing? We have seen a lot of brands really disrupting the marketplace, and as fast as possible. We have heard a lot about electric cars, and for maybe 10, 15 years ago that everybody's trying to do electric car, and there wasn't need for that. But today we see Tesla is really disrupting the car industry. And most of the brands, because I worked with the car industry for almost 5 years, I knew back in 2014, 15, there was a lobby between the well-known brands that by 2019, they have to go into electric, fully electric. So they're working on it so hard. So we will see electric cars. And we have heard right now recently about the new brands coming with solar energy cars. So if your car in the sun, like Joe Kuwait, you put your car in the sun, it's charged. Khalas. You don't need a socket at home at all to charge your car. So a lot of brands thinking of new ways to do things. Uber with autonomous driving. So there is no driver in the car drives itself. We have heard about the regulations that already set for autonomous driving in the US, in California. Starting from June next year, there will be no drivers in the cars, so you see them in California. So will be, everybody's trying to disrupt the market and the industry in their own ways. But the good news is, with major players in the market disrupting, it allows another different set of opportunities to the marketplace, where others will come up with the new solutions, with the new apps, with the new services, on top of these platforms.
And with all this comes new challenges.
Exactly.
All right, so in the interest of time, we're going to do one more question. And so the final question is, so we've seen a lot of disruption. Most of it revolves around the digital economy, right? So what is your, and very quickly, maybe in a few sentences, what is your, is there any misunderstanding about digital media or digital marketing or the digital economy that you want to clarify for our audience here?
Absolutely. I will refer back to my presentation yesterday. The digital scenario, the digital platforms, digital technology, the capabilities of marketing people to utilize those platforms is phenomenal. However, I still maintain, because I've been doing this for a long time, you cannot forget the traditional basics. It's like having, you might have a rule book of how to use technology, but if you don't understand the basic principles of your marketing objectives, and
you won't be able to apply it.
You can't apply it. Right. So that is it. It's not, digital is not a silver bullet.
Fantastic. Khalid, any?
My takeaway, I would say, digitization is the next big thing.
Okay.
And it's,
so you don't
it's
entirely agree with Jonathan, or?
But I agree in one aspect of that, because if we are talking about digital marketing, we have to keep in consideration right now, since you are focusing on customer experience, it has to be a mix of both.
It has to be omni-channel.
It has to be omni-channels, all channels working together if we are talking about marketing. But if we are talking about platform, digitization is taking the word by totally different perspective. I give you a small example. Like in my office right now, we don't have a lock with a key. You know, through an app, once you pass by the office, you touch the door, it opens by itself. I can allow anyone over here access for 24 hours as a guest. You can be in my office without me being there.
And without the fingerprint or anything?
Without fingerprints whatsoever. So companies like the security companies today, they are charging businesses, let's say 900, 1,000 KD to put the digital lock with the fingerprints or with codes. But right now there is companies working in bricks and mortars into digitization. They are offering solutions way cheaper than those. So for us, it costs us around $300, $400 to put the solution together. That's it.
Wow. That's disruption.
That's digitization.
That is
what's the disruption is happening. So a lot of industries will be disrupted with digitization, I guess.
Yeah, that's a small but very interesting example of disruption. So that was it. Apologize, we had to kind of rush it. Are there any questions? We'll take maybe one or two questions from the audience. Is there any questions? Yes, Fred?
For you, Jonathan.
Yes.
What is the next era of social media?
The next era?
To replace social media, for instance.
What's going to follow social media?
That's a very interesting question.
We have our crystal balls and we're trying to forecast the future.
I think it's an unstoppable force. I think what we are seeing is, ironically, because of all the social media platforms started up as, you know, incubator businesses, they became massive. There are other platforms that are popping up out of nowhere, but what is ironic is the consolidation within the marketplace. So WhatsApp being bought, and you know, Twitter, we don't know where Twitter's going to go. It might well be bought at some point in the future, but I think that the next move will be a consolidation of the big channels. They're probably, in my view, the messaging market is probably saturated. I think I would need a crystal ball to answer that question properly, and I'm not clever enough for that.
I think I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I will help you with that. Web 2.0, where social media emerged, and they thought social media is it, khalas. But what's happening right now, there's a lot of data, a lot of information on the web about everyone, about everything. What they are working on right now is Web 3.0, which is artificial intelligence. And everybody investing in that right now. We see Siri, we see Alexa, and Amazon, and Google now. Everyone is moving
that's really
into
interesting,
that
Khalid,
direction.
because we also see a series of chatbots and things that are launched on websites.
A lot of things. Facebook, they shut down a project about artificial intelligence because they thought it's a great experience, but what they never expected, how smart will be the artificial intelligence. And the machine start talking about on a language that nobody understands, by actually the consumption of all the digital information available. So my biggest takeaway for this, be ready for artificial intelligence.
And the increased growth of virtual reality as well.
Exactly.
Virtual reality, yes. That's actually something that we at Future, we're investing a lot in virtual reality, because there's going to be a big future in that. Not just not just people think it's just for the gaming industry, but it's actually going to be applicable also for education, for training, for lifestyle, for the travel and tourism industry. It has a multitude of applications. Anything else? Any other questions from the folks here? None? Great. Thanks very much, guys. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.